we'll have a 1 hour conversation with the panelists, and then the last 30 minutes will allow you to come in to ask your questions. And as I said earlier, we'll start at exactly 6:30. I think it's 6:30, I can see. So is Ivan? I was looking for a gentleman called Ivan. Is Ivan here?
Yes, I'm here. Welcome everyone to our first 2025 PR Fundi Masterclass. We started in 2019 and we have grown over the years. Our philosophy is to believe in creating a fireplace for PR practice across Africa. So it's the reason we have the PR Fundi Masterclasses every month on different topics. Today, our masterclass is on PR Fundi. Our PR masterclass today is on PR leadership amidst a BANI environment. BANI, for context, stands for Brittle, anxious, Nonlinear, and Incomprehensible. We are looking at a possibility of, yes, we have the data as practitioners, we have the insights, we have the perception, we can research about everything, but are we building our leadership capabilities in that line? Are we looking at the CEO level? Are we looking at what is the next thing after here? Because we have the skills, we have the resources, but also our capacity should be able to go beyond just communication or direction of where the media should be. So how are we able to look at even the BANI environment and look at what opportunities are for our personal growth, but also the opportunities for our growth in our respective careers? So today we have the Secretary General of Africa Public Relations Association. He will be standing in for the president that will join us later. He's called Dr. Omoniyi P. Ibietan. He's a journalist, he's a writer, an academic, and an author. He has over 20 years experience in media and communication scholarship and practicing journalist and communication strategy, regulation, and stakeholder engagement over 20 years. His first book is on political communication, social media, social demography, and voting behavior in Nigeria. So we have the right experience, the right team, the right person to discuss the BANI context that we have today. He had earlier served as a special media advisor to Nigerian's Minister of Information and Communication. He's currently the head of media relations at the Nigerian Communications Commission. And we are happy to have you today, Mr. Ibietan. Our moderator today is Ian Rumanyika, our vision bearer at PR Fundi Masterclass, but he's also an award-winning and certified communication specialist. He has an MBA in marketing. He's a member of the African Public Relations Association, and then the member of PRA, the equivalent of APRA, but for Uganda. It's called the Public Relations Association of Uganda. He's an accredited PR practitioner with CIPR UK, and he's also currently working with Uganda BATI in charge of external communications. I would gladly invite Ian to take over from now.
Thank you, Ivan. I request that you probably share the profile of PR Fundi and Node Group in our inbox. I will not be able to go through the PR Fundi because of time. Doctor, you're welcome. Can you say hi to the people?
Yeah, can you all hear me?
Very well.
I feel so honored to be part of this learning process. I'm sure I'm just going to trigger a conversation, waiting to learn also from Ian and from everybody. But permit me, please, to welcome all of you, in particular, my elder brother, my mentor, Emeritus President of APRA, Mr. Peter Muti, who is here to also guide us on what we're doing. So that's special recognition. And to all of you who have subscribed to this call, I thank you very sincerely for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Omoniyi, and thank you, Peter, for joining us. I think I last met Peter when we were in Mombasa for the East African PR Week. It's good to see you again on this class, and your guidance and strategic direction will be very helpful in this discourse. So Dr. Omoniyi, will start straight away because we want to make sure we utilize this 1 hour through a conversation of asking ourselves the main topic of the day of how do we make it to the C-suite as PR practitioners. As you know, without a doubt, if we are to stay ahead of the curve as leaders or as communicators in the BANI environment, which Ivan explained to be brittle, anxious, nonlinear, and incomprehensible, which is the advanced environment from the VUCA environment that we used to know. We should be able to focus on continuous learning, and thank you for accepting to stand in for the president, and I'm sure he will also join us along the way. And we have invited a number of PR practitioners on the continent who will be able to listen in and learn and also contribute towards this discussion. And we're asking ourselves, how do we strategize ourselves as PR practitioners, or how do we position ourselves in the pursuit of our journey to the boardroom? So the call tonight is that we think it's high time we sit in those positions of influence so that we shape the discourse and shape the future of Africa. And as we have already seen, I read somewhere, and you're a writer, you will tell me if I'm wrong, that over the past 20 years, the most common professions that lead to the C-suite positions, particularly for CEOs, includes chief financial officers, the CFOs. Some also include chief operating officers. And also we have seen a few chief marketing officers as well take on these positions. And because of the digital landscape, of course, IT heads as well, I think they are beginning, and also chief human resource officers. So the question we are asking the chief communicators, the heads of departments of corporate affairs, why not us CFOs and COOs have been the predominant roles and have taken up the CEOs roles, and this shift is beginning to align more on the heads of ITs as well. So the question we're asking ourselves is, what do we need to do as PR practitioners to sit in the boardroom? And we'll have a conversation with Dr. Omoniyi. I think we went through his credibilities. He's a very able gentleman that is going to discuss. And we'll start right away. Before we start, by the way, Dr. Omoniyi, I have colleagues in Uganda who have been able to have an opportunity to be CEOs, who were actually heads of corporate affairs like me. And they have again come back to be heads of the departments, but they were CEOs. they have made an about turn, and also for some of them that we know, they have actually been at a very difficult position. So what is happening within the profession? Of course, as well, we know those that have been successful. So you tell us if you know those that have been able to actually lead as chief executive officers for different organizations. So the first question I'm asking to you, sir, what key experiences or roles in the public relations do you believe would best prepare us as professionals for this position of the CEO? How do we get noticed?
All right. Thank you so much, Ian. And once again, Mr. Muti and all of us, I can see that we have quite a number of people who have subscribed to this. Let me start by saying that Communication is the most central skill that anyone requires. First, to communicate within the family setting as the basic unit of social organization. But more importantly, it is the most important skill that one requires to belong to a society, because values are communicated through language.
Yeah.
And so if we are PR practitioners, we are already empowered to be institutes. But there is a way in which also society is structured. There is a way in which systems are structured that put certain people in a disadvantage. Now, I'm also an activist. I was a student activist. In my days, I was a national student leader in the days of the military in Nigeria. And one of our slogans is, there is nowhere in the world in which freedom had been delivered on a silver platter. You must take it. So you recall that the public relations duty in many organizations in the past didn't get the kind of recognition that we got today.
Absolutely.
So there was a time when people go to events, and then it is when they are back, when the CEO is back with the chief financial officer and other people, that they will now call the chief communication officer, which is of course a recent development. In those days, they would just say PRO. So you see, so they will now call and brief. This is our resolution. Could you please put it out in the media? So the issue is this, Ian, if you are not on the table, that means you are the subject matter being discussed. So the PRO is not there. But today we now have Chief Communication Officer, which is inside a product of agitation by people in our profession for recognition. Why did we agitate to that point and we are recognized? It is simply because we have brought something to the table. So we are no longer a subject for discussion at the table after meetings have been held, and you are saying, okay, what do we tell the PRO to tell the public? We have migrated from PRO to Chief Communication Officer. So we're already in the C-suite by virtue of the fact that we are the best users of language, and we are the people who have the strategy and training to be able to use the appropriate channels of communication and to use the right language in adequacy, in sufficiency, to be able to reach the public. So when you ask for what kind of skills may be required, I think we're already there, Ian. We already have the skills. For instance, the PR professional is the most strategic person in any organization today, because all organizations exist to interact with the public, and it is the PR professional that is trained to interact with the public by taking the message of the organization to the public. So I think we're already there.
So why aren't we, and that's good, Doctor, so why aren't we making the leap to the CEO seats? Because we're already there. We have the skills of that actually matter to be a CEO, but we're not taking the leap. If you look at the statistics, they do not show us they don't give us the favorability that we need.
We are not going to wait for us to be given. We will take it. You know, I don't know how familiar you are with the Bible. There's a section that says, from the days of John the Baptist, the kingdom of that kingdom suffered violence, and violence taketh it by force. I had told you before that, look, where we are today, that we have Chief Communication Officer in organization, is a product of agitation. As an activist, I can tell you that we are winning this war. Let me say this to you and to all of us who are on this call. You know that the chief image maker of any organization is the CEO.
Absolutely.
So automatically, the role of CEO is reserved for the best chief communication officer who knows his onions. Remember that the CEO cannot be the first image maker of an organization if the chief communication officer or the PRO has not coached him, has not educated him on on how he needs to position himself to be viewed by the public. That is the job of the public relations officer. So when you see a CEO who has appropriate posturing in public, it is because the PRO is doing his work well. And when I say communicating well, it means in the way he dresses, he or she dresses, in the way in which he or she speaks to the public, in the way in which any CEO has emerged as a thought leader. It is the PRO, the communication officer, who groomed him. Because he's the chief image maker, while the PRO is the chief spokesperson. So no CEO has performed well without a fantastic public relations professional behind. Ian, don't forget that if you look at the history of organizations that have failed, they have failed because they either didn't listen to their public relations professionals, or they listen and refuse to take the advice. So for me, all communicative behaviors of a CEO is a reflection of the standard, the aptitude, and the knowledge and skills of the PRO of that organization. That is the measure of the success of CEO today. So for me, we are just headed to where we belong. And let me give you a very concrete example, Ian, and for all of us who are listening. I work with the Nigerian Communications Commission. I'm the head of media. I have a boss who is the director of public affairs. He sits on the table when critical decisions are to be taken. So we have gotten to that level. Another thing I will say to you is, in Nigerian Communications Act, which is the enabling statute that set up the Nigerian Communications Commission as the regulatory authority in Nigeria, it is very specific about those who can be appointed as CEO. May I tell you, not that I plan to make all of us unhappy, that it is not stated that a chief communication officer or a public relations officer or professional can be appointed. It is not stated. It mentions people with accounting, as you have said, financial officers. It mentioned engineers. It mentioned lawyers. But can I say this? It also mentioned that a public administrator who has what? Discharged the duty creditably well. As far as I'm concerned, a PR professional who has gotten to the pinnacle of the profession has discharged his or her duty well and is qualified. It depends on how you want to interpret it. In Nigeria, 2 years ago, the Nigerian Nigerian Institute of Public Relations succeeded in making PR profession to be a cadre in the Nigerian public service at federal and at state level. So in both the national level and in subnationals, you can rise to become the director. It's a cadre. It has been cadreized. It's a documented thing. It is not. So it is, and it is a long struggle for us to achieve that. So the implication of this, Ian, is that if you retire from the federal public service in Nigeria or in the state as the director for public affairs or director of public relations, you have succeeded in discharging yourself worthy of being appointed as a CEO anywhere. So you can see the point I make about the way in which the law itself is flexible. It depends on interpretation. Because if I end up here as a director, and when I'm out of here after age 60, and you want to appoint a CEO somewhere, you cannot say I'm not qualified, because the rule has said that I've gotten to the pinnacle of my profession. If I go to the pinnacle of my profession, I'm a public administrator. And so I can be the CEO of the Nigerian Communications Commission. I just give you an example of, and one reason why we shouldn't feel discouraged that the process is a bit slow. If you look at where we are coming from, you know, Ian, that we are very close to where we are headed.
Yes. Without a doubt, I think there has been a deliberate effort to make us closer to the seat that we want to stake. And soon, I think we'll see, as you said, we have what it takes. We have communication skills, which are very critical for the CEO's role. But also you mentioned that we are good storytellers, and CEOs need to be good storytellers to shape narratives. We have, of course, without a doubt, we are skilled at crisis management. There's no CEO that should be not have that skill of crisis management. But Doctor, I just wanted to know, and the stakeholder engagement, of course, this is the day-to-day role of a CEO. I just wanted to know, with the data and tech dominating the businesses now, data analytics and business models that are changing to understand how revenue will come in. Most businesses are looking at the sales and P&L, profit and loss. Does being a brilliant communicator, like you mentioned, that we have these skills, take precedence in the boardroom?
Can you take that again? I think there was a little glitch.
Sorry. Doctor, I was saying, without a doubt, you mentioned that we have what it takes. And we have, I think we have seen a different ton of events where PROs or heads of communications departments are actually closer to the seat or to the suit in the boardroom. And we have also recognized the skills that we have, which are critical, like stakeholder engagement, storytelling, and we can leverage on those to be good CEOs. But with data and tech now dominating how businesses should thrive, and also looking at businesses focusing on P&L, profit and loss, accounts and sales revenue, that's being only a brilliant communicator, take precedence in the boardroom. So what I'm talking about is what qualities do PR professionals need to cultivate or transition into to understand the overall business model of the current BANI environment?
Thank you very much. Ian, I said this to you. First and foremost, the role of the PR professional is, is the role of a sculptor. I just described for you that look, the CEO's image is a product of a sculptor. The PR professional created that image for the CEO by being his #1 tactician and strategist. Any CEO that is worth that name will call the PR professional around him to get lessons, to get insight into how he needs to go out to do his work. Remember that every opportunity that the CEO required to launch himself out as a top leader, which opportunity every CEO desperately needs in any case, that opportunity can be discovered by no other person than the PR professional. It is the PR professional who is able to say, look, we need to get to this forum for you to network, because there are potential investors there for our kind of business, because there are financiers for our kind of business. So what I'm saying in essence is, at the risk of sounding self-glorifying because I'm a communication person, I'm saying to us that the PR professional is almost a tabula rasa, that kind of a thing, because there is hardly any aspect of an organization's operation that the public relations professional does not have an idea. In journalism school, my teachers told me that a journalist is meant to know something about everything. Aside from the CEO, the person in an organization who knows something about everything is the PR professional, because whatever happens in the organization is the one who takes it to the stakeholders in terms of media relations, in terms of crisis communication. So now go concretely into the the question that you have posed, in the midst of VUCA and in terms of transition to BANI, I will say this to you, that the PR professional has acted fantastically despite the challenges that digital technology has thrown, despite the brittle nature. Brittle in the sense of fragility of issues, and then the anxiety that comes with the customer, then the non-linear nature of how things are happening. In those days, you could have a strategic plan to say we will do this should happen when we do this. But things are no longer linear. As a matter of fact, people are no longer talking about strategic plan. They talk about strategic framework now, which is highly agile, so responding to the dynamism that comes from the environment. And when things seem incomprehensible, it is the PR professional that is able to deconstruct it. So the PR professional is the most discerning person in an organization, and some of the skills that he or she needs to be able to function fantastically, the first skill is communication.
Yeah.
And is the one who is the most discerning in the organization when it comes to communication, because it is communication that you use to build what? To cultivate relationships. So when you cultivate relationships, you are able to call people, and with some measure of transparency and trust, they trust you, they will tell you what they feel, and then provide you insight that you need to take informed decisions. So by my reckoning, the PR professional is already situated as an heir apparent to the throne. If we look at the CEO position as a throne, in terms of the majestical nature of kingship. So it is just a matter of time. It's like the heir apparent is like a crown prince in waiting, because seriously, he is the one who has made it so easy for the CEO to function well, as a thought leader, as a professional, as a leader in business. Problem solving skill, it is also in the hand of the PR professional. Adaptability, it is what we do today in view of BANI and VUCA, making our framework, our strategy to be a framework that we can adapt and tweak when challenges come that we do not envisage. We are already doing that. We are the one that is open-minded. It is the PR professional that is open-minded to all kinds of submissions that you are able to process. It is the PR professional that will look at the CEO and advise in a very frank manner to say, look, boss, this is what we need to do at this point if we want to carry our stakeholders along. And if it is not done, there are usually consequences. So if a CEO fails twice to listen to the advice of the PR professional, no one will tell him or her to take the advice the next time, because the PR professional is likely, by virtue of his level of exposure, to be the most discerning part of the management. So he is armed with discernment. So he's armed with the necessary tools that is required by any organization or CEO to succeed. From communication, which you use to cultivate relationship and to get input from the right places, to being analytical, to being problem solving, to being adaptable, to being a team builder, to deploying ethical intelligences, open-mindedness, and of course, sincerity. When people see that you are sincere, they will follow you. All these are attributes that PR professionals have already utilized in the context of the uncertainty and the ambiguity of the modern environment that we have found ourselves. So if any CEO has worked fantastically well to survive this era, Ian, it is simply because that CEO has right behind him or her a good PR professional that he listens to.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I'm sure most of the professionals that are listening in agree that we have what it takes. And without us, probably the CEO that we've been able to make it will not be possible for them to be effective CEOs or play an effective role where they sit. But the question we're asking ourselves tonight, Doctor, is that we feel that we have played that role for quite some time now, and we need to sit in the seat instead and think strategically. So in your opinion, don't you think that it is important we transition as well from just building a reputation of that CEO or enabling them be effective? So how important is it for us to start thinking strategically as we aspire to lead these organizations? And maybe to add on that as well, as you answer broadly, speaking of industry knowledge, because you mentioned that we have an eagle's eye on what is in the business. Our colleagues in the finance departments, in the human resource departments, would probably say they have more 360 degrees on the operations of the business. They understand the business operations. They have probably more experience in terms of sales, operations, administration. How beneficial is this for us as PR professionals to step out of what we already know, which we have leveraged on to shape the CEO in terms of crisis communications management? You mentioned stakeholder engagement. Fantastic. We have done very well, but we want to have an eyes view or eagle eyes view of the whole operations of the business, so that we can speak numbers in the boardroom and they can believe that we can take on the mantle.
Thank you, Ian. You see, strategic thinking is about reasoning that focuses on critical factors that you require for an organizational success in the long run. Who has the capacity to tell the management of an organization that the action you are about to take is likely to be disastrous? Who has the capacity? It is the communication professional who understands how both stakeholders as well as the public at large can react to a very dangerous or wrong decision that has been taken. So, in the long run, when we talk as communication professionals, we are talking from the point of a strategist.
Yes.
I already told you that we are not just sculptors of CEO, we are both tacticians and strategists. In my introductory remarks, I mentioned that to you. So, because of the advice that comes from the PR professional, which gives the possibility of dangers in the future, which now gives insight to the CEO to be able to take appropriate decision, which, for instance, may be in respect of competition or in terms of change, which may now be the basis to rally the team around you together to provide solution for what you see coming. It is the reason why we have communication strategy frameworks, because communication strategy framework speaks in totality to an organization's operation. So I will say to you that we are problem solvers to those who are seeking solution to their problems. Within an organization, no role can be as strategic as the role of PR professional. Now, to the other part of the question that you ask,
yes,
about the supposed arrogance of those who are in business or finance, to say that they are probably better positioned to run an organization than us.
And that's how they have branded us.
Yeah, well, it is a philosophy that is emanating from ignorance is basically poor judgment. In my own organization, I don't see how anyone in any other department will feel that he or she is better positioned than myself or my boss when we sit at a place where we are armed with the necessary tools that we need to reposition the environment. We are able to take an eagle-eye view of the entire organization by virtue of being what? The spokesperson, the people who disseminate the information about the organization. We are already armed with more knowledge about the organization than anybody. What the finance person sees is just a narrow path. But because we have a kaleidoscopic view, of what has been happening, no one is better positioned to appreciate the organization and see where repositioning and re-engineering is required than the PR person who see day to day, hour by hour, minute by minute, the challenge of communication. Now, may I say this to you and to all of us who are listening, that despite our positioning, business and finance skills are very, very important. And for us, we must commit ourselves to upskilling, and personal development.
Yes.
Self-development is very, very critical. I will ask us a rhetorical question. How much of our income do we spend in procuring books in our field and in other fields that are contiguous to ours that gives us an advantage? Because see, everything flows from knowledge.
Yes.
And so in personal development, by virtue of our position, we already glean the fundamentals of our business. However, in preparing for the C-suite, in terms of CEO, it is not out of place for the PR professional to take an MBA degree and focus on an area that you think you need more knowledge in. It's part of the preparation that you require to be in the C-suite. For instance, you need to read books that are of general appeal about which area is the world headed, which direction is the world headed. Today, people are talking about AI. Are we reading writers like Harari, who has written several, many books on issues from the characteristic of Homo sapiens to what we call his current book is called Nexus, A Brief History of Humankind from Information Networks to AI. I mean, there is a book that came out about AI that is authored by 3 people, including the former Secretary of State in the United States, Henry Kissinger. They started the project before the guy passed. What has been written about AI? Mustafa Suleiman was CEO of Google. He has just written, talking about what? The coming age of disruption based on AI. How does AI impact public relations? We should begin to immerse ourselves in that knowledge. So, for you to prove to the people in finance and in business development that you are ready to be a CEO, go and take an MBA.
Yeah.
That means you have entered their terrain and you are contesting their terrain with them. Go online and look at best-selling books in the area of business development and basic skills of financing. Yeah. What are the fundamentals of financing? Recently, I chanced on a video by one of the communication training outfit in North America, where they invited an adjunct professor from George Washington University. Her name is Karen Vahuni, to speak about, she teaches in the Strategic PR Masters program of George Washington University. But they have brought her to talk about financing and business, as it relates to the PR professional. And she said, look, besides going to do an MBA, besides looking online, checking Amazon for the current books that you may need to to read to or upskill yourself, you can by being intentional in reading about business development and finance, you can catapult yourself as a PR professional. You can catapult yourself upwards faster, because people will not rely on you when it comes to communication alone. When they are discussing business, you are making very fantastic and critical contribution. So you put a stamp of professional credibility on yourself by being able to speak about core operations of your organization. If you need to take an additional degree, do it. If you need to do a short postgraduate diploma, do it. If you need to participate in programs like this as we are doing, you do it. The adjunct professor proceeded to define 3 basic concepts in financing during that particular upskilling program, and said, look, a very good and serious-minded PR professional should be familiar with with terms like income statements, which tend to measure financial results of an organization over a long period of time. It speaks to what an organization earns from its operations and its general performance. A PR professional should be able to know what this means. She argued, and I agree with her. Why is it important to you? If your budget is cut to half, how do you prove that it is a wrong decision? You must be able to justify your inputting to that particular income statement to show the reason why your budget should not be cut arbitrarily because publicity is not cheap. You cannot just tell your CEO to increase your budget without justifying why it has to be increased. It takes your knowledge of the operation of business development and financing to know. The adjunct professor went ahead to say, do PR professionals, do they know what balance sheet means? Which talks about the financial health of an organization, at a point. And then, of course, goes into issues like the assets, which means what the organization owns, liabilities, which is the debt, and then, of course, equity, which is your organization's worth. According to Professor Vahuni, a PR professional should step out of his box as a communication specialist to begin to discuss issues like these, so that people will know that professionally he's credible. So I agree with you. So that is it. I'm going to stop here so that we can take more questions.
I agree with you, Doctor. We need to step out of the comfort zone. I think what Doctor is saying, colleagues, is that how do we make sure we have a broader understanding of the business operations? Do we understand the interest of the shareholders? How do we make sure that we have experience in different areas of the business? If it is sales, we should be able to have knowledge on how are we setting targets, how are we generating sales, what the route to market, and how do we make sure that we support the business achieve its profits and also revenue. How do we make sure we understand the operations, the administration bit of it? Because I think our colleagues have gone ahead to understand this proper. And with that, we would leverage on the already skills that we have on communications, stakeholder relations, and others that are very critical to be a CEO, to be an effective CEO, to professionalize our journey to the boardroom. But speaking of knowledge, Doctor, and I'll ask members to start, please, typing your questions in the inbox, and we'll be able to ask in the last 30 minutes. I see we have 15 minutes to that point where we're going to ask questions. So speaking of knowledge, Doctor, mentorship, how important is mentorship in the career transition? Because sometimes that's one of the challenge that we have as communicators, that we've not been able to look at mentorship as a critical aspect in enabling us rise to the occasion. So how important is that?
Thank you, Ian.
You just mentioned that you already have a mentor online, Peter.
Indeed, I mean, I attended APRA conference for the first time internationally in 2011 in Mombasa, which is where we are headed now to mark to have the 36th conference and of course the 50th anniversary. As you are aware, APRA was founded in the Republic of Kenya in 1975. So we'll be 50 in June, and we'll be converging there to celebrate. I've been following people like Mr. Omoniyi to see how things are evolving, and sometimes, right from here, I chat with him every time. When there was crisis in Kenya and there were all kinds of lies flying around, I will go back to him, to say, leader, what exactly is the true situation here? Can you explain? Because there's so much lies going about, in the social media. So for me, I see people like him as a good mentor. I mean, I've understood it for almost 15 years now, and I cannot overemphasize the role of mentorship. I say this to you. If you are a PR professional, as we are at the moment, even if you are just in the middle level and you are not yet there an executive, you are not yet at executive level, you must take it upon yourself to pick 2 people from your team who are your juniors to begin to mentor them, because there are things that you would desire to do. Sometimes you could get a smarter person who is your junior, and you begin to get these people to glean how they could do it. You can train people to be better than you.
Yeah.
There is nothing as beautiful as you being in an organization, and as you exit, you look back and realize that, look, people are performing in a way beyond what you expected, and you are part of those who inspire their activity. So mentorship is crucial. I mean, I'll give you an example. Again, last year when we met at Cote d'Ivoire to talk about APRA in general at the conference and proceed to election, I didn't go to Abidjan to contest for Secretary General of APRA. It was those whom I see as my mentor that came to me and said, you must. And when I indicated interest, I have the support of people like Mr. Omoniyi. I have the support of some other people who feel that, oh, look, it's time that you contested. And so we have been wondering. When I told the president of NIPR that, look, I'm just here to present a paper and to ensure that we have things organized properly, he said, well, that's part of it, but you have to step in there now to run for Secretary General. Because in Nigeria, we know you more as an APRA man than an NIPR man, even though you are a fellow of NIPR. So you see, you need to be able to watch your environment and see who is the person or who are the people that you require to be able to do things in a particular way that leads to sustainability of the organization. And it is your duty to mentor those people. Yeah. So as I have said, we cannot overemphasize the role of mentorship in terms of sustainability of what we are doing, as well as even what the future holds. Ian, I know that for our generation, we may be challenged in terms of coaching people, in terms of mentoring, because if you look at the orientation of the Gen Zs, it's as if we are not of the same world with some of them. So it may be a bit challenging to mentor certain people. And the challenge can be overcome by imagining yourself in their situation. In our days when we were growing, we didn't have the kind of expansion in digital culture in the way we have seen it now. And those things are impacting on the orientation and the attitude of young people. So you have to imagine yourself as a Gen Z to be able to mentor a Gen Z. This is the challenge that comes with mentorship at this stage, but we must brace up to embrace it. We must just embrace it and take up the challenge that it is.
Imagine yourself as a Gen Z. For you to mentor a Gen Z.
Say again.
Bonita, you will have to raise up your hand, and then we'll allow you. In the last 30 minutes, we're going to allow questions to be asked. And I think, Doctor, you clearly put it out. Yes, we may face some challenges. And speaking of challenges, in terms of, I happen to work with the government and then the private sector. There's what we call organizational politics. On our way to the C-suite or to the boardroom, we are likely to face some challenges, and maybe through the political nature of the setup of the organization. What are those challenges we're likely to face, so that we're aware of as PR professionals, and how can we prepare for them so that we can overcome those hurdles along the way?
Thank you so much, Ian. One fundamental challenge that we have at this moment is the shrinking attention span.
Yeah.
See, in your own days, you may be able to sit and listen to a lecture for an hour. You may not be able to get a young person to do that. So what do you? You make your thoughts and everything crispy. So in engaging with a Gen Z, for instance, and I use the word in a positive sense, it's just it is what it is. I mean, an average Gen Z, the thought process is different from what you will find, with other generations, So what I'm saying in essence is, be conscious of the attention or attention span of a younger person who is heavily influenced by the digital culture.
Yeah.
And then when you want to also engage with them using the digital culture, you need to do some basic line studies to find out where are they located.
Yeah.
You may find some of them on Facebook, but you may find majority of them in TikTok. But you may be thinking that TikTok is not the kind of platform that you want to use to engage people. But if that's where your audience is, you take the message there. You may not be able to use the X the way you would like to use it, but if that is where your audience is, and in our field, the role of the audience, knowing your audience is so fundamental to the success of what we do. You have to know who your audiences are, and then where are they located? In the age of digital communication, where is the platform where you will find most of your audience? You don't ordinarily want to go there because you think it's filled with obscenities. It is not always so. In the midst of obscenity, carve a niche and create your own followership, and they will listen to you. So those are the things I talk about when we look at challenges within our profession in the context of digital age, in context of even mentoring younger people and younger professionals.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. And on the call, I see we have some of our elders. Speaking of mentorship, these have been very instrumental in making sure that mentor the young ones in this profession. Peter Muti, thank you very much for tuning in, and we're going to give you a minute or so to just say something on this topic. And of course, Jimmy Chibelu, I hope you're there. I think I saw Jimmy Chibelu, and I will allow you after Peter to say something. And I think also Lukshana, you must have something to say after Jimmy Chibelu. So over to you, Peter, as you contribute to what Doctor is talking about.
Thank you very much. And I must start by appreciating what SG, my Honorable Secretary General, has articulated. You have ably tackled this topic very well. But let me just throw some few points here. And the first that I will start with is that for the last 28 years I've practiced public relations. I often think that we misdefine and often misrepresent what we do. We call ourselves communicators, And often we are very happy to have the title of communication in our position, communications director, head of communication. And therefore, the organizations or the CEOs that we work for often think that our work is actually to string together words and mix videos. That is not the key role of our profession. And that's why when you have a CEO who is good at stringing words, will often bypass us and do these things and give us even poorly drafted items from other departments to finish up and make them Kanban statements. Our key role is to predict and manage the actions and reactions of stakeholders. Absolutely. That is our key role, and that is the most strategic thing that we do. Because when we do that, then we manage what we are going to communicate. At the end of the day, our value is then seen. So in other words, we should be scientifically deciding the organization's activities that we will then communicate about. And let me tell you, colleagues, when we start, projecting ourselves as that dynamic thinker who is executing stimulus A to our stakeholders to react in a particular way that is beneficial to the organization, then we start becoming the CEO material. That's the first point. The second point, and I don't want to emphasize on it, is having a dynamic mix of skills. And SG has really articulated that. An MBA is a very nice thing to have on your portfolio. Basic financial, understanding, good grasp of business trajectory, understanding stakeholder management thoroughly, remaining cutting edge, emotional discipline, deep knowledge, intellectual rigor. All those are things that we need to move forward and become CEOs. And finally, communication includes what an organization does, says, or doesn't say. It includes words, action, and inaction. And therefore, as communicators or as that dynamic professional who is predicting and articulating behavior, we must be able then to effectively drive the organizations towards the right action and the right inaction. When that value comes out, I can tell you the board will not look into the financial director or the HR or whatever other profession you want for that position of the CEO. And I really I'm so impressed that this topic came for that continent-wide discussion, because when we come together and we share this, we build ourselves, we make ourselves cutting edge, and we stop that narrow definition of ourselves as communicators. We are more than that. We are strategic thinkers. We are predicting behavior and then executing that stimulus to the society so that the stakeholders give us the results that we want for our organization.
Many thanks, Peter. Many thanks, mentor, to many in a distance and also close. I think it's high time, without a doubt, that we change the narrative or the misrepresentation of PR professionals. And as rightly said, and even with what Doctor said, we have all it takes. We have the skills that are needed in the suit for chief executive officers, and more of that, the effective chief executive officers that actually are running the organizations. We have made them, and we've been able to shape that. And we need to change and deliberately change that misrepresentation that our colleagues have painted, that we cannot make good and effective chief executive officers. But also, Doctor mentioned that we need to get out of our comfort zones. And Jimmy, speaking of comfort zones, what do you have to say? Just a minute for you.
Thank you very much, Ian, and good evening, colleagues, professionals. Thank you so much for this lovely topic. I want to start by appreciating the presenter, Dr. Omoniyi. I don't know if I pronounced your name right, but that was extremely provoking. I'm sorry I couldn't join you earlier on. I was caught up in a meeting and into a rainstorm, so I just got home in time for this session as it was concluding. So I think I just want to build on to what my colleague Peter Moutier has said. I think we are now at an era whereby we need to get out of the silo, because for so long, when you were appointed as a PR or whatever names they're called these days, public affairs, whatever, and so on, first thing you're always associated with media.
Yeah.
People who do the newsletter, people who gossip, people. Basically, you are kind of put in a special silo that unless there is a special event, a party, company event, a cocktail, you don't have a seat at the table. I think we've now moved away from that, and now we are in a stage whereby we are collectively trying to see that we rise up, earn our seat at the business table. But apart from earning that seat at the business table, delivering. The key word is delivering results. And you're not going to deliver results if you are a bystander in the stadium. In Uganda, they have an older stadium called Nakivubo, and there's a place they call Chirasha. Chirasha is where you have all the spectators. In theory, they know the game better than the people on the pitch, but they never participate in the game on the pitch, but they do the side talk. I think we don't want to be there. Yeah. But I want to recognize the fact that there's been some deliberate efforts, and I see a lot of PR people these days who have moved from PR into leadership and management dockets, where they even become CEOs.
Yeah.
And there are some organizations, and I think we should also, I know, Doctor, you've emphasized the MBAs and so on. I think right now, the theory part, a lot of times we always say, let me go do it's like a relay to get these awards onto our, what do you call it, our displays. They look nice on the wall. You have your degree from Makerere, you have your master's from ESA Business School, you've got this PhD and so on. But I think there is something which goes over and above this, and this is the leadership aspect. And it starts by leading in terms of the moment you have more than one person or a person reporting to you, or a team you're belonging to, you are already a leader of people. And when you are a leader, you are influencing results and behavior indirectly. Sometimes you don't have to be doing things, but ensuring that the people ahead of you are delivering, and by their results, sometimes like in the space I've been working in over the last 8 years, we are not only rated by our goals of how many partnerships, I don't know how, the traditional measurements that we've been having on strategic communications and so on. It's also the pipeline you've developed, okay, to a point that even when you are not present, the business will be able to continue with or without you. I mean, you can take your leave, but you people will be able to stand in, represent you in an exco meeting, and speak just like Ian, you're speaking. So I think the pedestal has been lifted to a certain stage whereby our assessment is not just how well we are with our footwork in the office, but also how well we develop others who are able to stand in. Because you see, when these people now become the new Dr. Omoniyi or Peter Moutier or Ian, you kind of get elevated in society. You probably now go to the level of director, from director to board members, from board member, whatever it is in society. We all have these roles. In Uganda, you have got this program which is being done by I think Dr. Kimbowa. It's the CEO Forum, And
Yes.
I was very glad before I left Uganda, there was a program I attended. It's a 1-year program. And I think to me, that's a very good opportunity whereby, apart from just the MBAs and so on, we get programs that we should also encourage our teams to embrace, which bring out that leadership aspects, the communications people. Because leadership, we've got a short supply of leaders, very short supply, okay? And I think when we look at, in addition to the colorful degrees and certificates we have, we should also now start looking at some of these low-hanging fruits, like this program of Dr. Peter Kimbowa, looking at opportunities, for example, to shadow our CEOs. I'm in a space where we've got somebody who has been leading the ESG program, standing in for the area director while he's on leave. And I can tell you that kind of opportunity, it might be short-lived for 2-3 months. For 3 weeks to about 6 weeks at a busy time when they're preparing for the company plan and so on. But you see, it kind of elevates you to deal with bigger challenges that influence results. Okay. And I don't really want to discredit the MBAs and so on, because we've got CEOs. For example, in Kenya, you'll all remember a gentleman who headed one of the biggest telcos in the region. He passed away in 2019. I don't know if you still remember him.
Yeah.
Bob William Colimo.
Yeah.
He was from the Caribbean. This gentleman didn't even have a single degree, but he was one of the most successful CEOs. So when you study some kind of a person like that one, you look at him and realize that it's not just the academics, okay, but he had such very good PR. He had very good people management, HR skills. On the finance, the business spoke for him, because everybody will quote Safaricom. Yeah. So you start looking and see that there is something about ourselves in terms of being a rounded business professional, that you can wear the belt of a production director. For those who are in the medical field, like and colleagues in Uganda, sorry, I've just heard about the outbreak of Ebola. But for people who are in this kind of technical roles, that you can actually stand there and talk like a medical professional. That means that for you to do that one, you've gone into the dungeons, understood the business, interacted with the technical people, and you can speak like them. And you created a system whereby you are the organization spokesperson, but you also have technical non-spokespeople that you call on board, and they shine and carry the business forward. So without spending too much time, I think for me, all I want to say is that, yes, we've got our role as PR people, PR managers, but we are also business leaders. And of course, our role, we are like the radar, we are the antenna, we are the Air Force. We kind of scan the environment, kind of help shape where the challenges might be, and where we should be focusing more, creating uncomfortable conversations, bringing them into the boardroom, and then over and above that, of course, enabling the infantry to do their groundwork. But while we are also part and parcel of the team, rolling our sleeves. So to do all this, we are going to do quite a lot of things, which include self-learning, mentorship, which has been talked about, understanding, of course, the business, and also learning, I think, some of those small little things that sometimes give PR people a lot of problems. Financial knowledge. I can tell you one of the most embarrassing thing is, I think sometimes our PR people, we are like sometimes journalists. For those of you who have done financial briefings, you will talk about something, and at the end of the day, the journalist, what was supposed to be billions, he will make it, and what was millions will be billions, and vice versa, and so on, simply because we don't get that knack of understanding the language of finance, being able to articulate it, and earning the the confidence to represent our institutions and also participating in conversations that shape the business. So I don't want to take a lot of your time, but I just for me it was more an appreciation, first of all, for Ian and your team for making these kind of conversations possible, and of course, Doctor, for being able to challenge and bring out some of these things that we quite often forget as we focus on our narrow interest areas of media and so on and so forth. I'm not saying we should throw them away, but let's make sure that we are a well-rounded professional, not like bodybuilder who builds the chest to become so big and then the legs begin looking like that, just toothpicks.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you. And there's no better way to put it. And put peer leadership amidst the BANI environment. I think you nailed it and you explained it properly. Before we go back to Doctor to just give us his perspective on the trends that we should expect and what is changing, I just wanted to give an opportunity to Rukshana. Are you there? Just 1 minute, and then I have 5 questions here. I will ask Peter or Doctor or Jimmy to chip in on the questions later on. Rukshana? Okay, so Doctor.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Doctor, I just wanted, as before we go into the Q&A session, what would you tell us about the future trends? How do you see the role of the PR practitioner changing in the corporate landscape? I mean, is there anything we've heard about AI, and what should we prepare for? And I have also a number of questions that people are asking here. I will be able to put them across, and some of our key elders here in the profession, they will be able to support us.
Thank you so much. Let me thank my former president and mentor once again, Mr. Omoniyi, for that encouragement and that contribution, which, I mean, it's gone a long way to really amplify what's been established and to even discuss them in very fantastic context. And Mr. Kiberu, thank you so much for bringing quite a lot of knowledge on board, and thank you for your kind words. Ian, you see, the future is going to be a combination of both what we have seen in what we call VUCA and BANI. And we are going to see much more. We need to be conscious of the international environment, the dimension of what has happened in the United States, and its implication on what we are doing should not be underestimated.
Yeah.
We are going to see an increase in the undermining of democracy. We should expect that. And it has, of course, its consequences and implications.
Yeah.
The dimension we will see will be beyond what we have seen before. Where does this lead us? As communication people, one of our functions is to predict what could happen and weigh in on the consequences. I think someone's
Damali, please mute.
Yeah, it should be muted.
Yeah, Damali. Oh,
thank you. It's muted. Yeah. So thank you. So the point I'm trying to make is because of globalization and the fact that the international economic and political system is taking very strange dimensions, they have implications on our ability to function well.
Yeah.
Democracy is likely to be undermined by from centers that we have thought are bastions of democracy. That will have implication for what we do in Africa. For us, because our spirit and soul and minds are connected to the progress in Africa, we must be willing to offer counsel to those who are our leaders in Africa, either at national level or even the context of the African Union.
Yeah.
But it also means that we need to be educated. We need to immerse ourselves in the kind of knowledge that we require So the future is digital and the future is knowledge. But you also see our capacity to acquire such knowledge. You know, it's also very challenging. And I'll give you a very clear example. I mean, look at the exchange rate of the currencies in Africa to the dollar. If you want to buy very good books, chances are that you are going to go online to get them. Even books that are written by Ugandans and Kenyans and Nigerians, we are likely to go and get them online and at a price that may be a bit high. Most people get their books when they travel. How many people are able to travel? Most practitioners of PR in Africa are within the public sector that has been caught up in global inflation. So how many people a country or an organization can even send to conferences is limited. The number is limited. So it then means that we are going to be challenged in terms of the exposure that we have to networking and getting derivable benefits of conferences and what have you. But you see, the digital culture has also given us opportunity to work remotely. I think this is the fundamental lesson that we are taking from COVID. We were all locked down. We thought we couldn't be marooned. All of us were marooned in our islands, in our homes. But we relied on digital technology to be able to do what? For our sociality. We transacted business online. We did all kinds of things online. So we must be ready to key into the digital technology to be able to do our job. We mentioned AI. Please let us embrace those AI empowered tools that we require. Our audiences, what type of content do we need to get across to them? What AI tools can help us? We do not need to just jump into the AI space and begin to apply tools that may not give us value. So sit down and be strategic as PR professionals. What is it that you want to do? What AI tools can help you to do that? Embrace it, embrace that. And we need to be more conscious of misinformation, disinformation, and sometimes malinformation. These are very, very critical moments for us to watch out for such things. I made reference to the kind of messages I was reading online concerning Kenya when that crisis happened. I had to rely on people like Mr. Mutie to give me, the right information and context. And it helped me to be able to make meaning out of what was coming out from Kenya. But we have moved into an era in which misinformation is even going to be so terrible by virtue of what has happened in the North Pole, where people have been doing all kinds of misinformation and distortions.
Yeah.
We need to be more conscious as people. In fact, it is the most challenging thing that we face. Fake news and the fact that artificiality of intelligence is likely to undermine the gains of PR. It's important where we now have nations that have created artificial personalities as spokesperson. The ability to take what was not said by another person and impose it on another. These are threats to the successes in our field. So we have to find a way to do what we call fact-checking. We must have, I expect each and every one of us to have a fact-checker. And we have a couple of them on the continent. I mean, we have Dubawa, which is quite popular in West African sub-region. Africa Check is also there. There are quite a number of things online that can give you the authenticity that you desire to have when it comes to verification of knowledge. Don't forget that what AI has done to us is to exaggerate the possibilities that can come from technology. But we know that value derivation comes from dual existence. The human intelligence, the human agency's capacity and creativity has to meet with technology to produce a good result. We cannot rely entirely on artificial intelligence, because I do not think that we should accord creativity, to machines beyond, at the level at which we are doing at the moment.
Yeah.
The creative energy itself resides in the human agency, and we should not be lazy in deploying that creative knowledge for our profession. We shouldn't rely entirely and take hook, line, and sinker what machines are going to give us in the name of artificial intelligence. I call it inorganic intelligence. I use AI. I love some of the ones I use, but I'm just saying that there is a need for us to be careful on how we use them. After all, if you send a question to any AI tool now to talk about, let's say, who is Ian, or who is Mutie, or who is Kiberu, when you get the results, sometimes you marvel whether this is about you or you have been mischaracterized. Because if there is any fact in if there is any untruth or falsehood that anybody has written about you that is online, it will be generated and given back to you. So what we are gathering is AI is extracting what is already in the repository on the internet as big data, including the lies and the truth. So it is our duty as communication and PR professionals to please humanize whatever it is that AI gives us. And that means that we have to read more. Because if you don't read more and you have yourself immersed in knowledge, you will not know what is falsehood from what has been generated by artificial intelligence. Yeah. So these are challenges. And please let us note that the future for our profession is going to be more visual than textual.
Yeah.
Video will play more role in the future of PR. In fact, I see YouTube recalibrating beyond the level it is now to go beyond what it is offering at the moment, because we are going to see more visuals and videos. That is the truth. And I won't be surprised if other social technology apps that are not video dominated, I won't be surprised if we begin to see some re-engineering in their space to ensure that they are able to meet the competition. Facebook has recently talked about opening a space for greater free speech, because X has said there is no censorship. So they also don't want to be caught, to be seen to be censoring too much. But you also know the danger that poses. Because if people can behave anyhow and there is no self-regulation, no control, the entire space that we are actors is going to be so messy. We, APRA and many other organizations, including PRSK and NIPR, belong to Global Alliance. Last year, on July 24th, Global Alliance submitted a memo to the United Nations requesting that responsible communication be made the 18th SDG. And part of what informed that is the increasing threat of fake news and misinformation and casting of racial slurs. Are we going to throw the space open for these things to continue? They are going to disrupt our existence very negatively.
Yeah.
So these are some of the things that we should watch out for. Political, environmental, social, and technological implications of the emerging global order, they are going to impact on our profession seriously, and we should be ready. Knowledge is at the heart of it. Self-regulation is at the heart of it. Reading is part of it. We must be ready to network and share knowledge with other people so that we are able to also face the challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Without a doubt, this is a rich discussion, and thank you for opening our eyes. I think these are very critical insights that you've given us. And I just want to request Mr. Muti, Peter, and Mr. Chiveru, and you, Doctor. I have a few questions as we wrap up this discussion. So if you have a pen, just write. Each will take one question. And this is going to Mr. Muti, as the cow of APRA. Cow, I think this Chief Administrative Officer, cow, I want to believe. My role involves direct engagement with members from diverse cultural backgrounds. And this is Veronica. And she's asking, while I am Nigerian, I must set aside my personal cultural lens and adapt to the cultural perspectives of each individual I interact with. So the question then is, how can Veronica ensure that my language, tone, messaging are clear, inclusive, and respectful of all cultural backgrounds? So Peter Mutei will help us answer that one. Jimmy, you will help us answer Lawrence Obo, who is asking, there is a confusion between the difference between marketing and PR communications. Are they similar, and what's the difference? So Lawrence Obo is asking that. I think that is one thing that we've been able to, we've always tried to demystify. So Jimmy will help us demystify that. And then Doctor, of course, as you wrap up, you answer Stephen Muneza, who is asking, how can communications person identify the right people to actively seek mentorship, especially from those experienced professionals who would propel one to the C-suite? And I think we could add one that from Grace, I think Grace Kinganzi, who is also asking, you mentioned the flexible nature of a communications framework, which is a good thing. However, how do I balance keeping up with trends in one hand and staying true to the organization brand tone? Grace Kinganzi, they're asking. So I'll start with you, Jimmy, the difference between marketing, and then Peter, you answer Veronica, and then we'll wrap up with Doctor with those two questions. Thank you very much. Jimmy?
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry, who was the question? Who asked the question?
Lawrence Obo.
Okay, Lawrence Obo, I hope you are not related to my good friend Charles Onyangobo, but no worries about that one. I think you asked a very good question, and I think you are not alone in this particular confusion, especially when people who don't understand what public relations is. They always wonder whether we are the same. Some people call us cousins, and there's always a lot of confusion. And if you notice in organizations where public relations is not strong, there is always this push to merge the two. And I think that's a very big mistake. I just want to make it clear that public relations focuses on managing an organization's reputation and building positive relationships with stakeholders. And this is done through a variety of ways. It can be through communication. And we, of course, when we talk about communication, you and me know this is more variegated. There is internal communication, external communication, and all these tools that our good Dr. Omoniyi has articulated. On the other hand, marketing will tend to always focus on promoting and selling products or services to generate sales, and this is often done through direct marketing and promotion activities. It sometimes relies a lot on public relations in terms of influence, and also trying to trying to influence the brand, the perception, and so many other things. So what I just want to do, because of time, is to say these are completely different disciplines. Just like you can't say, when you say all doctors are the same, a neurologist will always be very different from your regular, doctor that attends to children and so on. So I think just be very clear that these are very, very two different things. And what makes it even more challenging for public relations is that whereas in marketing, you tend to have a direct control over some of the things like the products and so on. In public relations, influencing opinion, and also influencing people. These are people sometimes who you have no direct control over in terms of reporting lines, in terms of executive authority. You are actually using soft power, soft skills, and so on. Okay. Yeah, so I think in simple terms, that's all I'll say. I'll just make a few other remarks maybe as we are closing, Ian, so that I don't take a lot of time for other people.
Okay. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Jimmy. Peter, Veronica had a question for you.
Hello.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Go ahead, Peter.
Am I audible?
Yeah, very, very audible. You go ahead, Peter.
I want to be sure that I can be heard. I'm out of my session.
Yeah, we can hear you, Peter. We can hear you very well.
Am I audible?
Yeah, very, very well.
Thank you very much. Okay, Veronica, how are you? It's good to hear that you like to know something about cultural intelligence. That is an integral part of our profession. Understanding the different cultural setups in different locations, in different parts of the world is absolutely critical. And it's a skill that we must have to be effective communicators globally. I'll give you an example, two examples actually. One is related to the country you come from, Nigeria. If you sit down with somebody who has the title chief, you must understand what that means. Once upon a time in my career, I was making a presentation and I was seated next to this gentleman and he was called Chief so-and-so. I don't want to say the actual name. And then I didn't appreciate in actual terms what that title means. And therefore, when addressing him, I did not do it properly until I was told, hey, wait a minute. A chief in Nigeria is the highest community level, and they deserve that kind of recognition. Once upon a time again in Zambia, I was making a presentation and I was referring to categories of staff as cadres, and that's we call them in Kenya. This cadre, the professional cadre, the technical cadre. And I could notice that people were looking at me at some glasses, meaning there is something that is not coming out well. Little did I know that word cadre has a particular implication in that country. So it is very necessary to understand the cultural setups of any country where you are involved in. And for you, Veronica, you need then to have a clear intellectual cultural capacity for the continent, so that when we go to Egypt, then you are able to understand what the culture there means in certain aspect, so that you don't find yourself probably offending people. In India, for example, when they nod, they are not in agreement. In this part of the world where we come from, we nod, we are saying yes, that is correct. But in India, when they nod, they are saying no. And so as PR professionals, one of the assignments that we should have anytime we are getting involved in an international engagement is that cultural intelligence. We cannot avoid to go into a country where we don't have at least good knowledge of the cultural setups in that country, because we can very easily find ourselves offending people. I think that's what I can say. And it is not difficult. As more research and asking around will help you a lot. And by the way, the most effective way to break ground in a country that you don't belong to is to know the local greetings. So if you come to Kenya and you say jambo to the guy at the immigration, he will stamp your your passport without asking you a second question.
Yeah.
And I think that applies to other places. So in the ratio, that cultural understanding is very, very critical. That's what I can say. Thanks.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you. I think that's. I think Veronica, you're happy with that response, and we need, as peer practitioners, to be emotionally intelligent and think ahead and do our homework well to be able to be effective communicators. So, Doctor, just to make sure that as we wrap up, you had two questions. I think one from Grace and another from Stephen. You can combine them, and then we'll have parting shots from all the contributors tonight, and we close this session.
Yeah, thank you. I want to be sure I got the second question. The first question I got is, how do I identify those to relate with in my journey to CEO?
Yes, and the second one was on she mentioned that you mentioned about the flexible nature of communication framework, which is a good thing. However, how does she balance keeping up with the trends on one hand, but also staying true to the organization's brand tone?
Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. Okay, so I'm going to start from in the way they have come chronologically.
Yeah.
How do you identify those to relate with in your journey? What do you need as you travel on that journey? You need data, you need technology, you need those tools so that they can provide the insight that you require to make informed decisions.
Yeah.
So you need people who are what? They love research, they love the use of technology, and they are able to convert these derivable benefits for your journey.
Yeah.
You want people who are what? Who are futuristic, who look at what's likely to happen and prepare for it. So you need strategists. You need strategists. You need people who are flexible, who are adaptive, who are agile, who are able to change within a second of changes in your environment, either environmental or technological or political nature or economic. You need people who are impeccable communicators. You need people who have aptitudes and the intelligences that you need to bring on board the work you do. Your natural intelligence and other aptitudes, including even how to deploy the right artificial intelligence tools. You need those who are sincere.
Yeah.
You need those who are sincere, because organizations have failed because of the disconnect between what CEO says and what he does. So you need sincere people. You need those who are transparent. You need those who are open-minded. You need those who listen to other people and are able to analyze the context in which people make contribution to the organizational growth. You need people who are forgiving. You need people who, because every day we offend each other, and organizations have been toxified because people refuse to forgive. You need in your team people who forgive and move on. That is a very central element that we ignore. Those social soft skills are important. People must be able to forgive and move on quickly. Otherwise, the environment is so filled with toxins that people are unable to work together. And you have to also remember that you need those who see the imperfection of the human person, the fact that we cannot just be perfect all around. You need such persons who will see that, I mean, the weakness of another is what another person needs, and you reinforce your team. Everybody in your team, I mean, does not have to have every type of skill that you require. But if you have a list of 10 skills and you have about 5 people, each of them having 2 of those, you are able to build a very good team. And don't ever throw out any idea. Yeah. Encourage people to read. Reading culture is dying because of social technology. People are online, not using the tools for the right thing, but doing the very wrong thing that does not align with their job. You need people who are disciplined with their time management. Yeah. You need all this and even more. But people must be willing to read and glean what is new. How do I apply it? You need people who you can take on a retreat, and people are there and are encouraged to be free to make contributions, and people come out to express themselves in a very civil manner, even if they are critical of the process. You need to draw close to you those who are going to look at you and say, boss, this is inappropriate. He's not going to say it in the open. He or she may come to your office to say, boss, that thing you said at the meeting, I don't think we should follow that path. Some people are not able to talk in an open fashion. They want to come and engage you one-on-one, especially when they disagree, so that you don't look at it as insubordination. Draw closer to you those who will criticize you in a very polite manner. Yeah. Don't drive away from your axis, from your environment, those you think. Sometimes we make strategic error in choosing the wrong people to be so close to us because they are just what? They are yes men. Yeah. Don't build yes men around you. Build people who are able to use their critical faculty to look at what you have said and to say, oh, boss, this is good, but I think this, if we do this, this is the consequence. And please, you must be willing to reward. You must be willing to incentivize good ideas. Yeah. You could find a way of doing it, Ensure that you do not divide your team. Don't be divisive. Don't be divisive at all. Some people say divide and rule is another way of, no. Leadership is central, and you lead by example. When you find 2 members of your team not in good relationship, you must find out why and encourage them to close the gap. Yeah. Don't ever think that you can just wish things away, because those things come to affect the way your team works. So these are the things that I will say concerning the first question. You know what you need, and then you go for it. Yeah, thank you, Doctor. The second and concluding part has to do with when we talk about strategic plan. The reigning paradigm is strategic framework, which speaks to the fact that you have a list of things that you will not do, leaving open what you would do should circumstance present itself for you to change. Agility, the ability to change. So many people in the United States now, so many organizations must be recalibrating and reworking their plan because of the emergence of a new order in the country. So we can see the kind of things that have happened. The disruptions are going to be massive. As I was reflecting on my Facebook page the other day, I said, it seems the world will never be the same again. I mean, if you have a situation in which you have tens of executive orders within 48 hours, as if the country has no constitution, as if you are starting afresh. It's as if so many things are fundamentally wrong with the society, and so through executive order, there must be a reordering. So if you operate in the United States, even as a PR professional or a consultant, you have to begin to look at your books again and see. So it's impossible for you to say you have a strategic plan. Just have a framework that is adaptable. So that's the context in which I use the word communication strategy framework rather than communication plan, because we must go beyond this attitude of and I think it's kind of some baggage from the past where people will say, okay, what is our communication plan? Yes, you can have a plan, but please build more on framework rather than a plan, you know, because sometimes you can have a complete plan that will not work out the way you have worked it. Does it mean that you have failed? No, you have not. So in order not to be classified as having failed, remember, in our field, if you get 99 things correctly, that one that you didn't get correctly is what most people will be talking about.
Yeah.
So why should we take the risk? So we should have a framework that enables us to change our strategy and what have you. Sometimes you may have even planned a particular channel of communication and you find that you're unable to use it.
Yeah.
For instance, there was a time for more than a year in Nigeria, you cannot access Twitter as it used to be known. The federal government felt that something came from Twitter that was so disruptive and felt, look, these people are going to scatter the country. And so we are not going to allow people to access this. And Twitter was yanked off. So if you had planned to use Twitter, for instance, for a year to address a particular audience, what do you do in that circumstance? You have to look for an alternate platform. This is the context in which I use the word framework rather than a plan. Because a plan, you are assuming some linearity and going towards some expected end. And we are talking of BANI because things are not linear, they are non-linear. So this is the thing. I look at the concept of VUCA and BANI and use it to make reference to the need to have a framework that you are able to tweak around things as things are happening, because you are a strategist, remember. So you have to be able to move from one point to the other and make sure that you achieve your purpose despite the challenge that may have been, thrown at you because of things in your environment. So this is the point I made. I hope that makes sense.
Very, very well. Thank you. Thank you for those enlightening words, Doctor. And as you prepare your parting shots or your concluding remarks, I know we are running out of time, but I realize I think probably give an opportunity to one or two people who have raised their hands for a long time. And I see Marine. Marine, please, I don't know if you have a comment, just quickly in 1 second. Costa Nantome and then Immaculate Namanda. A cook, Marine, or a coach, or I don't know if I pronounce your name very well, Marine. Okay, I think I see Costa.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So, Akuch Rosette Marine is my name, and I'm the project manager, Capital One Group. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who has spoken, because
Yes.
I have actually never been asked that question, what next? So making me realize how short-sighted I have always been about my goals and objectives. And when we had the speaker talking about how he was an activist, I thought he was going to inform us about how the time is coming when we don't need to actually get an MBA, whereby master in strategic communication or PhD in strategic communications would be enough for us to get the golden chair. But I feel this has been very eye-opening in that it has made me more aware about how to get the golden chair. And yes, my question is mainly about the statement which was said about how a strategic framework is now replacing a strategic plan. So I kindly ask for the difference between
I think that's what Doctor just
strategic framework. Thank you so much. Back to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Marina. Thank you. I think that's what Doctor just elaborated in the last question. So in the interest of time, I think we'll share this recording and you have to listen in again. Costa, just 1 second, and then I think someone, Lydia, yes, Lydia. Costa, keep it short, please. Okay, Lydia.
Thank you so much, Ian, and thank you, Doctor, for your very insightful words, plus other presenters. I really appreciate. I think for me, they're just key takeaways, and maybe to reassure the PROs, the communicators on this platform, that we have everything in our ability. What we need to do is to step away from the comfort zone, as the doctor has pointed out, so that we take the seat, because it's all in our faces. If you look at the financial reports, who compiles all these reports? It's us. So you need to move from the comfort zone to know, how do I interpret these statistics? Engage with your finance team to be ahead of your game. So you may, if you don't have time to take on these extra classes, just be proactive, move away from the comfort zone, take the lead. If you are given those reports, make sure you understand what you're communicating. Thank you so much. That is my...
Thank you, Lydia, for appreciating the contribution made by our wonderful panelists. Maybe before Doctor comes in to just give us his closing remarks. Jimmy, do you have anything to add? You had mentioned that you had something to add as we conclude.
Okay, I think for me, maybe just to use the mirror is just to summarize, and by way of example, sometimes we've got a combo of, various organizations have been using a combo of methods to try and address this very important topic we've been talking about this evening. And I just wanted to share a few that we have used mostly especially in the multinational world. One of them is one of those platforms, and these are sometimes things that don't cost a lot of money, but just having a person going away to study for a master's for 2 years or a PhD and so on, but simple things. And I'll just mention a few. Exposure to one audit function. A few years ago, when I was still in one of the multinationals, I was taken out of the corporate and regulatory affairs, which is the public affairs in most departments. Yeah. And I was taken to one of our operating companies in Zimbabwe. And my role was to join the audit function. You'll ask yourselves, why an audit function? But you see, when you go and work into a function like audit, it gives you a 360-degree view of the business. You get to understand what sales is doing, what HR is doing, what finance is doing, so that when you come back to your function, you are actually no longer just a communications professional, you are a rounded business professional. You can now ask probing questions, and you can see the business from above, from below, and from the sides. So those are simple things. And then, of course, job rotations, special project roles, and everybody on this call, don't wait to go to Harvard. Sometimes those project roles, we are launching a culture change program.
Yes.
Head from the front. Don't wait until they bring you a story, or you go and bring a media to interview the CEO about this. Be part and parcel of driving that process. That's where leaders and managers begin to shine and rise above the rest. Short-term assignments, going and doing short gigs around the business. Secondments. And then product knowledge. Never talk and speak for a product you don't understand. if you remember nothing from tonight on my part, just go back into your business and ask yourself, this thing I talk about, do I understand it? Can I stand up and, for example, present it to a group of policymakers and field the questions? If you feel incapable, then you still have a big gap to go. So that's a little bit on this whole thing, elevating ourselves. So I think in closing, for me, the only points I wanted to say is that one, let's remember who we are. One is we are resourceful go-getters who are driven by our corporate mission, and we all have our different, corporate missions. In our corporate culture at Bayer, we've, one of the things we've been emphasizing is customer focus, experimentation, collaboration, and trust. And of course, underlying all this is also the life, what we call our life, our life goals or values. Life standing for leadership, integrity, flexibility, and efficiency. We all have this, but you see, let's understand beyond listing them, what do they mean to us, and how do we how have we managed to use these to create a body of an organization that enthuses or shows this as part of this whole thing of growing a qualitative leadership that makes us unique when we're in a crowd. The other thing is curious. We have got to be curious about the world. And I think one of the things that has come out tonight greatly is artificial intelligence. Today on BBC, the only thing they've been discussing is DeepSeek. I mean, do we understand all this? What is it? And so that curiosity, you must, and as a public affairs PR professional, get to know what are the trends and read. I want you guys to be a sponge. Try to understand as much as possible what's happening, what's the opportunity, how can we leverage it, and become that knowledge sponge that is able to articulate and also see how some of this can propel the business. Okay, you of course a good fit for the business, and of course in your plans, this is just to complement already. Because if you're a plane, if all of us here, if I can now use the analogy of a plane, one thing that puts us on the runway is your knowledge. All of us have that experience. I mean, we've all gone through school, university, you've done first degree, second degree, and a combo of other courses. Okay, we have knowledge and experience ranging. We have got people who just graduated and joined the job market. There are those who've got 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and so on, and a strong track record of previous communication roles you've done. This already now puts you on the runway. Now, difference is the takeoff, that uplift. For you to take off, you notice when you sit on a plane, it will go on the runway for about 2 or 3 kilometers until it gets that lift that takes it into the air and it gets airborne. That is exactly what I think these things we've been talking about now give you to, that uplift. And if we understand all this, plus all our knowledge and skills in things like IT, being IT savvy, and our engagement and interaction skills and so on, I think we are going to be up there with, flying with the, walking and flying with Yeah.
Thank you, Jimmy. Much appreciated, and many thanks to you for coming in, even when you are not on the lineup, and contributing heavily to this discussion. And from what I pick from you is that these are encouraging words that we already position as strategic thinkers within the long term and the short term. We have what it takes to be in the boardroom. Also, just like earlier on. My good doctor said, we are crisis managers, communication managers. So we handle the unexpected and we mitigate risks as communicators, and that gives us an edge. And of course, with the data-driven edge that we are in, I think we need to pick up the skills in making sure that we are good at analyzing information and speculating and giving our CEOs or the business some statistics that they can use to inform good decision making. But also, he mentioned that we are very good at relationship building, which is a critical aspect in being an effective CEO. We are good at developing connections within the media, within the stakeholders, and that we can leverage to amplify the business success. And there's no CEO that is effective, that is not a good storyteller. So we need to leverage on that, because we are good at crafting, comparing narratives within the landscape and of where we participate. But also you mentioned, Jimmy, which is critical, I think, for all of us, that we need to have a broader knowledge on what the business is doing, so that, and those special projects, me personally, I think they have been very critical to me to volunteer in a number of special projects. If it's a culture change, you'll find me there. If it's something about women leadership, you'll find me there, trying to make sure that I shape that discourse. And that is very good and informative. You will actually be much, much better off than a person who has gone to Harvard. But just before I give a vote of thanks to our panelists, I just wanted to ask the doctor, good doctor, your closing remarks, just in 1 minute, and then we can call it a day. Sorry for stretching it, but I thank you very much. It has been a very informative discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Ian. I just need to let us know that we can't run away from knowledge acquisition. There are aptitudes that we require to succeed. Knowledge, skills, and attitudes that we need to succeed. We must get them before we aspire to be CEO. And because we need to use it to also create a CEO that speaks to the goal of our organization, we ourselves must have those attributes that we try to get the CEO to have. Not because we want to be CEO one day, but because the African adage that says you cannot give what you do not have applies. So the educator must be educated. We must acquire all the knowledge that we require. And as Mr. Kibero has said, and Mr. Motier, the self-education part is so central. You may not need to go to Harvard or Cambridge. You may not even need a PhD. But you know what? Because you have been interacting, you have been doing you have been reading, you've been networking, you find that you are able to amass resources that you need to succeed. And on a final note, I like to do this clarification between communication strategy framework and communication plan, because I understand that one or two of our colleagues have raised that issue. You see, when you think of why, you are thinking of communication strategy framework. When you think of how, you are talking of communication plan. Communication plan speaks to how you want to implement your framework. Framework detail why. When you have a good framework, you are justifying your existence in your organization. Because the plan that you have offered, somebody may be brought in to implement that plan. But there is what? There is a background knowledge. There is an intellection that speaks to what? Something you have articulated to ensure that your reason for being, in fact, communication strategy framework justify the existence of the PR professional in an organization. Because it is a blueprint that you have outlined to say why do you have certain objectives in place? Why do you have why are you targeting certain audience? Of what importance are they? So it is in the framework that you build this argument. In the plan, you are talking about how you are going to reach those audiences. And I made reference to the fact that you may not like TikTok, but if that is where you identify audience are, you go there. So what is more flexible is the framework. Because what you have done is to justify why you have to do this. But communication plan speaks to how, which can just be some outlined elements of nitty-gritty of what you want to do. In the past, communication plan is what people put out. Today, people talk about communication strategy framework. So within a framework, you have a plan. So you have a plan as a component of a framework because it speaks to implementation. But if you have already developed a concept as a framework, if you have interference from environment, from politics, from technology, from economics, you can tweak it because you already have a framework that is a blueprint of where you are headed. So when you are marooned, when you get stymied, you will need to tweak your communication plan because some of the things you have stated may not be what you can do because you are faced with a new circumstance. So your plan can change while your framework remains because framework emanates from what? Strategic vision, mission, philosophy of your organization and where you are headed. So this is the point that I try to make. And I hope that this call has brought some derivable benefit to all of us, and we'll keep learning and hope to improve. I have learned considerably from the kind of conversation in terms of questions that have been thrown and the kind of context in which all contributors, Mr. Mutie, Mr. Kiberu, and others have enriched this conversation even beyond my expectation. I'm so glad that I am in a forum of people who are so enthusiastic and so passionately concerned about improving our profession. We need to be on top of our game so that people don't just come, quacks don't just come to take over because they have gone to the internet or to AI to read some things up and then they step into our shoe to sting. They can do it. We have to demonstrate that this is a profession that is underwritten by a body of authentic literature and, of course, code of ethics, which no Tom, Dick, and Harry will be able to implement. So the only way that we can survive in the age of artificial intelligence is to be on top of our game, think outside the box, and insist that the appropriate thing should be done. I thank you very sincerely for the opportunity to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, good doctor. Thank you very much for stepping in and doing a very wonderful job. And as I invite Ivan to give us a vote of thanks, I think the call to action is clear, loud and clear to all of us to stay ahead of the curve as PR leaders, but also as future CEOs or already leaders in our own capacity within the environment that we're operating in. We've, I think, picked a number of lessons. Yes, without a doubt, it's brittle, it's anxious, it's nonlinear, it's incomprehensible. That's the environment we're in, and it's going to continue to change, as you heard from the doctor and Jimmy, and of course, Peter Motei, that we should focus on continuous learning and be adaptable and agile in the environment we're in, but also engage in professional development and empower ourselves with knowledge. Knowledge is power, and this will be able to enhance our skills and, of course, strategic thinking. Ivan, any vote of thanks to Jimmy and Peter, and then, of course, Dr. Omoniyi. Thank you very much. I would like to also to thank Ivan and the team that put it together.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Rita and Anthony, for the good job that you do in organizing these classes. The next class, we are going to dissect artificial intelligence, and as the good doctor said, we'll continue to have these wonderful people on the forum, and we dissect these issues so that we understand them better. Ivan, vote of thanks, and we call it a day.
Thank you very much for everyone that has stand up to our invite, and the discussion was fruitful. We thank you, Doctor, for sparing the time and the insights. Maybe the next book should be on communication frameworks and communication planning. I think it's an area that we need to unlearn and learn at all levels, whether they are beginners or non-beginners. But we thank you for your time and insights. In fact, it is purely African concept, but we have been able to now look at the applicability of every tool of planning or communication in each market we have across Africa. So thank you very much, Doctor. We hope to have you next time, hopefully to visit Uganda as well for such a discussion.
Thank you so much. It will be an honor to be in Uganda again. I've been there a couple of times, and I would always like to go back there.
Thank you, Jimmy, for your time. Jimmy is among the few people that we met when we were starting out in public relations, straight from school. So from PRA, they are the people that we are looking forward to, and we keep looking forward to regards ethics and career growth. So there's been a lot of learning today, and we thank everyone that spared the time to share today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Be blessed. Have a nice day.
Thank you, everyone. I hope we continue to apply what we've learned today. Thank you. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.